do not believe so.
Okay. All right, then next up is we're going to discuss our KPREP results with Ms. Brown and Ms. Williams.
So the first thing I would like to do is to orient you to what you have in front of you. The first thing you have is the schedule, so that you will know in hard copy, you will know what school will be presenting next after you see a particular school. So that's your first item. Then you have a single page copy of last year's test scores for our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, so that you could be able to look at that as they talk about this year's scores. And then the large document that you have is a copy of each school's presentation that they will bring to you tonight. Yours is in color, mine and Mr. Brown's are in black and white because we were conserving there. So unless you have further questions, I would like for you to remember that on a hard copy in front of you, you have a district and 2015 and 2016. It's a black and white copy. And you have a 2015 line on the left hand and a 2016 line on the right hand. And at the bottom, you see my handwriting where it says accountability, and there's a strike through that. So that's what I want you to know that is gone. You will never see that again. The accountability tab has been taken off the school report card. So that information there, that's the last time that you will see this, because we're moving into a completely new system from this point on. At our next meeting, we will go into that. All of the scores that you will see tonight, including those on the single hard copies, are assessment scores only. So it's not an accountability score, it's an assessment score. The scores from the district that you received earlier this week from Mr. Brown, they have only the proficient and distinguished students together. That's the score that you have, because that's where we need to be. We only put the proficient and distinguished scores combined on those. So on this from this point on, we will only look at assessment scores, and that's the only tab that you will see on the school report card. So the schools are going to present their information to you as they wanted to. I don't want to tell them how to do that. We gave them a frame. They looked at what happened last year when they presented, or their predecessor presented. They're going to tell you the scores in each content area, and then they're going to tell you the why they did well, why maybe they didn't do so well, or any other information that they wish to share. And then they're on to the next steps, or how are they going to achieve proficiency with all students in their building. Some schools have chosen to use the apprentice score with their data. So if you see something that I gave you and there is a point or two difference in that particular thing, that school chose to use apprentice. I only gave you proficient and distinguished. So that would be the discrepancy if you see anything like that. Other than that, next month we will dive into the new accountability system, and the district will share our data with you as well as our preschool and the academy at Horizons, because we're all district programs. So we will present together at December meeting. So do you have any further questions until we start with our schools?
I would just like to remind the board and everybody else is that this is a different system than what you've been used to in the past. And it's very, I don't want to say not impossible, but almost very difficult to compare last year's scores with the information that you're getting this year, because it's not the same test, it's not the same type of data, and so you have to be very careful in doing that. Remember, this is last year and this year are baseline scores and on the new system, and so we don't want to compare. It's not apples and apples, it's apples and oranges, so just remember that. Now, there is some similarities, and I'm sure when the principals do their report to you all, they will point out some of the similarities and some things that they feel good about and some areas they want to do. And also remember that we have new principals in most of our buildings have new principals, and just remember where they were last year and where we are this year. So with that, Ms. Brown.
Hello. I don't need that. I'm Robin Hanloser, and I'm the principal at Old Kentucky Home Middle School, where Wildcats lead. We are Leader in Me School this year, and we're really excited about that. I had the opportunity to be involved in Leader in Me at New Haven last year, and it was a really great experience. All right, so I'm going to start with data and then go through just our big rocks of a few of the things that we're working on right now to improve. Oh, I only pushed it one time, I promise. There it is. Haley, you were right. I'm not touching it. You can't hold it down too long. Okay, a gentle touch. So our reading data is, I thought it was kind of appropriate maybe that the pie chart that I chose looks a little bit like a lifesaver, because we have some life-saving to do in some areas, and those are the areas that we're focusing on. But you can see that our novice is just a little over 30%, and our novice and apprentice, that's really what I look at together, is the novice and apprentice, because those are the kids that we want to move, and it is over half that high. So we know we have some work to do in reading. Our math, as you can see, is going to be a big focus area for us, and we're already doing some things there that I'll be talking to you about. But when the novice and the apprentice make up more than half of that pie, obviously that's a big concern. Social studies. This actually was a little surprising to us. We were expecting to do better in social studies last year, and as you can see again, our novice and apprentice, half of our lifesaver there. And writing, as Haley said, and as several people have said, that writing is definitely a focus area for us. And writing is not just for ELA teachers, it is for everyone in the school, for all teachers to support that. And you can see that we have a lot of novice and apprentice in writing. Language mechanics, I think that our language mechanics look very similar to Rodney's language mechanics, where we are pretty diversified there. And really, language mechanics, I've never been a person that believes that language mechanics, that language is to be taught in isolation. You teach it through reading and writing. But it seems like across the board that all of our schools did pretty well in language mechanics this year. So when I think about the big rocks in my school, what we are looking at is culture, instruction, and professional collaboration. And that has been a real big endeavor for us. A third of our staff is new. And most of that third, they're brand new to teaching or within their first, second, or third year. So we really have a situation in our school where a big portion are brand new and a big portion of our staff are veterans that are towards the end of their career. We don't have a whole lot of middle in our school. So culture, instruction, and professional collaboration. And really what we're trying to build is a culture of leading and learning, student leadership, adult leadership, and to create that culture of learning, that it is about achievement, that everything that we do leads to raising student achievement. So as I said, we are a Leader in Me school, which means we are intentionally embedding the 7 habits, Covey's 7 habits for highly effective people. We're embedding those structures mostly during high volume times of the day, and that has made a big difference, and it has really impacted what we're able to do in the classroom, and I'll show you some slides of that here in a moment. Still, I'm a big fan of Teach Like a Champion, been using it for many years, intentionally embedding Teach Like a Champion techniques in every classroom. And again, common language, some of the same techniques, threshold, strong start, different things for closure and celebrations, and what they call giving props in Teach Like a Champion language, precise praise, questioning techniques. We also started this past week, we had our very first achievement coaching, and we called it The Ceiling Can't Hold Us. achievement coaching, and it really is our begin with the end in mind way to get kids involved in owning their own data. So what I learned from faculty when I met with them in the summer, I had one-on-one synergy sessions. Synergy is another leader in me language. I had one-on-one synergy sessions with members of the faculty in the summer. And that was about 2/3 of who is still there now, and then everybody else was new because we hired them this summer. And what I learned from faculty is that the culture was really in need of some change. And that most of the difficulty that they were having happened during high volume times, arrival, dismissal, class change. So Melissa Case, our vice principal, she is really the architect of this. What we did is we just began with the end in mind and said, when we're in the gym in the morning, what do we want that to look like? And based on what we wanted it to look like, we wanted it to look orderly. We wanted kids going into the bleachers from the floor, not walking over the seats. We wanted nobody on the floor and people in the bleachers. Like, we knew what we wanted it to look like. And so we really worked, our very first endeavor in terms of culture change was to really work on high volume time. So we have a very specific procedure for arrival and dismissal and lunch as well. As a part of this, we also wanted to build a culture of inclusiveness. And because we felt like that a lot of the staff felt like that some of the issues that they were having with culture was because they had so many different factions of kids. I guess we could call them cliques. And so we wanted to create a way for students to have more than one just set of friends, just one set of friends. So when they come into the gym for any purpose, but during arrival specifically, they come in and take the next seat. Everything is always next seat, next seat, next seat, next seat, start new row, next seat, so that they are interacting with more than just 5 or 6 people that they end up getting into factions. We do that same thing in the cafeteria. And we have the other thing that we did is, in terms of improving culture, is that we did away with an all 8th grade lunch and all 7th grade lunch and an all 6th grade lunch and went to a heterogeneous setting so that there are 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Again, because we want them to not be traveling in a pack with just that one set of friends. And when they come out of the kitchen, they sit in the next chair, the next chair, the next chair, the next chair. So they don't necessarily sit by the exact same person every day. We want them to get to know everyone in their class. And they are seated by class. So Ms. Harris's class sits in a section, Ms. Justice's class sits in a section, and that's just for logistics. It's easier for pick up and drop off. To make that less high volume, the lunch times are staggered so that they're not all coming in at the same time. So we really have had, because of these structures, we have had some pushback, obviously, because kids wanted more freedom, but they're getting used to it now, and they see the value in having those logistics and having those procedures for their safety, and just they're getting to know people that they didn't know before. We did away with bells. They needed to have a purpose when they came out of that classroom, and their purpose is to go to the next classroom. There's a lot you can do in 4 minutes in a hallway when there are 351 people in the hallway at the same time. So that is another thing that Melissa put into place that has really, really helped us. It also gets them prepared, as Rodney said, it gets them prepared for they're in a line and they're waiting and the teacher greets them at the door as they come in. Another piece of our culture that we're really excited about, as I said a moment ago, is we launched our very first achievement coaching where students will be owning their own data. Casey came and covered that for us. We're really grateful that she showed that interest. So this is our Facebook post on the Kentucky Standards Facebook page, and you can see Ms. Greer there coaching with a student. The student owns her own data there. Ms. Greer is giving her data. They're working on what the goal is going to be, and this is what I think is the game changer for us in terms of some novice reduction and some improvement. Part of it is just going to be pride, just them knowing where they are, and not us telling them where they are. The other thing that Ms. Greer does a beautiful job of is she makes math relevant. So she explained to them how the math test works. What is it doing when the questions are getting harder, when the questions are getting easier? Why is that happening? And then she explained to them the RIC scores or the benchmarks. So when we went into the goal setting phase, they weren't setting goals blindly. I just want to, I'll go up 2 points. Well, if you go up 6 points, you're going to make it from apprentice into proficient. So they actually had those benchmarks that they could look at and that they could reference and make educated decisions about their goals. So that's a begin with the end in mind that we're really excited about, because that involves kids owning their own data. We told them, if I walk into the hallway and I see you and I say, what's your reading goal? I want you to be able to tell me the number. Ms. Case also said, you know what, we need to have them, when they put their name on a piece of paper, that they put their reading goal beside it. That they put their, on math class, they put Robin Handloser, 248. So that they own it, they internalize it, and when that score pops up, first of all, I would think that they would be more inspired about taking the test in the first place, because they really internalized the goal. But as soon as that pops up on the screen, it means something to them. It doesn't just mean something to the teacher, it means something to the child. So we're really excited about that, and we feel like that's going to be a game changer for us in terms of not just better culture, but culture of learning. So our other big rock, second big rock, instruction. We are really looking at getting in our Tier 1 instruction and our core instruction more interactive learning. And it doesn't have to be a lot of fancy stuff. It can just be reading, writing, speaking, thinking, every student, every day. So what we have started in terms of our PLCs, and we did this at New Haven last year as well, that Kevin alluded to, the analysis of student work in our Learn Strong PLCs. And the whole point of that is we are beginning with just getting teachers to see more interactive ways of presenting information and more ways for kids to be carrying that through the classroom. What we will start, and we've started that now, these interactive learning strategies and bringing student work to see their misconceptions, their obstacles, and their strengths. And then where we will go in December is we will then begin the writing to demonstrate the learning. So now that you've done the strategy through whatever the assignment is that you're doing, then when you give the assessment, it will be an ERQ, an extended response question, so that we can get them started with their writing. And that's basically what we did at New Haven last year. That I just saw that score today, and I was so excited about it. I didn't know that had happened. So we're hoping to see that kind of growth at our school. Teacher observation and reflection tool in our Lead Strong Synergy. We meet with teachers every 3 weeks and go through a reflection tool with them when we come in and observe in their classroom. We pose questions or comments, and then they reflect on that, and then every 3 weeks we come together and talk about that. And then we have been very specific with our instructional coach, Ms. Pereira. She really is working largely with 3 people right now. So she's giving intensive coaching to 3 teachers who are brand new to teaching and who need more support. So this is just an example of what we're doing in our Learn Strong PLCs. We're using Doug Buell's Classroom Strategies for Interactive Learning, and it's really just a compilation of a lot of strategies that are out there. They're not things that he created himself. Very much like Doug Lameau didn't create the techniques for Teach Like a Champion, he just compiled them. So we go through a protocol. It's Doug Reeves' Dave Team protocol, where we literally, the teacher brings in the student work, we pass it out, and then as we look through, I keep resting my finger on that too long. As we look through a teacher's work, we're looking at what the students did. What are the strengths of the student? Those go on the left, and what are the obstacles that we think they had? And then after that's over, and it's a very much like a tuning protocol, after that's over, the teacher then expresses what his or her ahas or reflections are on what they'll do next. It's data-driven instruction, what they will do next based on that data. So our data is really not a lot of numbers from a test. Our data is student papers sitting in front of us. So our third rock is professional collaboration, and really these kind of overlap because I've talked about a couple of them already, but we're really looking to create an atmosphere of data-driven synergy, and that's one of the reasons that we really focus on the student work, because, and this happened at New Haven last year, as teachers continue to collaborate and talk about the students and how the students responded to something, they're seeing things in themselves and in their teaching, in their instruction, but they're seeing it through the eyes of the student. And it stings less, and it's a lot easier to think about improvements when you're looking at it through kids' eyes. We also, that last bullet point there, our faculty meetings, we call them our End Strong Synergy, and we will begin very shortly our leader in the action teams so that we can begin working to drive our improvement plan. Our coaching cards, so I said that we meet every 3 weeks with teachers and we give them a heads up as to what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be looking at going to next. So basically and I was told, don't pick more than 2 big rocks. You need to only have 2 big rocks. But I just, I feel like that improving instruction and improving the collaboration between instructors really kind of go hand in hand. So for us, novice reduction means improving our culture to change it into not just kids being good or kids behaving, but kids wanting to achieve. Also teachers improving in their instruction and their ability and willingness to share with each other and be transparent. That's it. Any questions?
Questions?
No, I've seen a huge transformation from what it was last year to this year. Really proud of it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thank you,
very
Ms.
much.
Hanlon.
Thank you.